5 seconds, you're going to enjoy everything about your favorite entertainment.
In our studio, we have badass director of the Raid 2 and also Merantau, Gareth Evan.
Halo.
Yang satu ini agak ngeri sebenarnya, cold hearted gimana gitu kan?
Juga sih ya.
Justru lo harus ngeri yang kayak begini nih.
Iya,
ada Mas Toro, Aryo Sagantoro, produser dari 2.
Halo.
Dan kali ini proyeknya adalah rilis DVD ya?
Iya. Rilis DVD dari 2 versi Indonesia.
Versi Indonesia. So it's gonna be US version, European version, or Japanese version?
We already released in US on Blu-ray and DVD. UK also, a bunch of European countries, and then I think Japan still not yet for cinema yet.
Oh, okay.
Japan's always like a little bit later in terms of the cinema release, and that'll be sometime I think October, November this year.
All right. So what's the difference between Indonesia version and the other region version?
Censorship.
Yo, that's the difference, you lovers.
Oke.
Jadi kalau seandainya kamu mau dapetin yang versi yang lain ya,
Gimana?
ya tinggal beli aja kesana ya.
In Blu-ray version or
Tapi yang di Indonesia DVD and Blu-ray version ya?
DVD only.
Oh, DVD only.
Ya.
Oke. Ada rencana untuk Blu-ray version?
Kita pengennya dari Red 1 Blu-ray-nya rilis, udah diskusi sama dari NAV, Pak Koko, distributornya. Tapi memang pasarnya nggak ada, jadi
jadi untuk sementara di hold dulu lah ya. Tapi kalau seandainya mau beli yang Blu-ray-nya ya bisa ke pemesan di luar.
Iya,
gitu kan.
betul.
Okay. Now, a little bit about try to refresh you lovers' memories about the Raid 2. The Raid 1 is all about how to survive, so like defense, all about defense. And on the Raid 2 is, for me, is all about anger.
Yeah.
It's all about Rama anger.
Yeah, it's kind of like for us, it's that idea of the sort of the pointlessness of revenge, and we kind of set this thing up as it's about that idea of dealing with grief, dealing with anger, but at the same time it's like, what are you going to lose if you let anger consume you, if you let that thirst for revenge consume you? Because not to give spoilers away, man, it's been a while now since it came out, it's okay, but it's that thing of everyone is kind of out for something, and each of them kind of is dissatisfied by the end of it. Like they're not getting what their initial goal is, and that's not. They're going to learn from that. Then the revenge doesn't come to Rama. It's taken away from him by somebody else.
Yeah.
So it's kind of playing on those themes a little bit more, and sort of dealing more with the idea of he gets consumed by that violence and consumed by the world he gets into as well.
A lot of people guessing that on the Raid 2 there's gonna be a team up between Rama and Andy. And suddenly you kill Andy at the beginning of the movie.
I got asked that so many times before we released the film, and every time people are saying like, "Oh, it's gonna be like Ram and Andy coming together and fighting against those guys," I was thinking, just you wait. So, first scene, man.
This you already prepared this, or?
Yeah, it was the first scene I wrote in the script was that scene. It was him, being shot in the sugar field.
Yeah, it is because the Raid 2 actually is being Raid first than the Raid 1, right? So it's already on your plan. Actually,
in that respect, no, because like what happened was the very first version of the script of the Raid 2 wasn't really about a guy called Rama. It was about somebody else. It was about like an ordinary guy who goes into prison and becomes part of a mafia, and then what happens when that world starts to become too violent for him to stay in anymore. That was the first initial concept of that was. Then after we went off and made the Raid 1, then like I wanted to tie it in and make it become this sequel, and so changing the lead character from an ordinary guy to a cop, and for it to be a continuation of that story, it meant that it had like certain threads from the first one we had to carry over to the second one. And so one of them was dealing with the brother issue, and to be honest, like when I knew I was going to do that sort of link up, the connective tissue between the two, and I look back on the first film, like I was like, you know what, I can't think of a conversation between them that can happen anymore, because they've already talked about everything they could talk about in the first movie. it would just be repetition. So, how do I fix this? I was like, I could shoot him in the head in the first scene. I was like, okay, that works.
And it happened.
Then that's Gareth style, right?
Yeah. When I can't think of anything to talk about, I just shoot people in the head. Yeah.
If you're facing like a dead end, like, okay, we just killed the talent or the cast and the character, man. So
I think it's brilliant how you explain all of the characters in the movie. Yeah, like when you put the story of Hammer Girl. Like I read it before that she's deaf and everything, but when I saw in the movie, like I just saw the character alive. Like I don't need the background.
Yeah.
They're all alive. Just that's it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's genius. Yeah, how you tell the story. I even never compare, because some of the Indonesian people, when they watch a movie, they will compare with others. Like, oh, this is not like the Hollywood. The Hollywood may be better, or I don't even take that as a Asian movie.
Especially for European movie, they kind of have a very long time to explain each of the characters. It seems like all the characters
very dynamic.
Yeah, very dynamic, and all the bad guy characters like explaining themselves by their.
We got really lucky with some of them as well. Because I mean, like with Baseball Batman, and then also for the Assassin, they both played by two Silat experts. Very Triusman and Cecep Ratman.
Yeah.
And those guys are incredible. Like, and they brought so much to it that I didn't even have to direct them for some stuff. It was like when Cecep was bringing down the sort of the pickaxe on the guy's head, he did this little sort of like look and shift with his shoulders that like I didn't even tell him to do it, and he just did it, and I was like, oh wow, okay, great, let's keep that. And then when he's facing off against Iko at the end, and he's doing all those gestures and looks, that was him. I didn't even tell him to do any of that.
Even the guy in a porn industry, yeah.
Oh yeah. Wait, I mean, which one? The one behind the curtain?
No. Of course, the boss. I really go into detail on that scene.
Yeah, that guy had to go method for that one as well.
How about the cover CD and that table?
Actually, that was the thing, because when we were shooting that scene,
no one talk about that.
No one talks about it. It's like we were shooting that scene, and I was like, how am I gonna get this stuff and get it past the Indonesian censors, because it's delicate, And so I was like, oh dude, we should do like these DVD covers where it's all clip art, so it's not offensive.
Balik lagi ke rilis berandal The Raid 2 berandal Universe.
Jadi sekarang ini lagi banyak kita lagi bukan kita tapi Gareth ini merilis DVD-nya ya. There are a lot of favorite scenes di sana tuh kayak all of it. I love all of the scenes gitu. Bahkan mungkin buat pendengar kita yang notabene banyakan perempuan ya, because our listeners are mostly girls. I think they
enjoying the fighting, man. Could you imagine that now?
The what, sir?
Enjoying the fighting, all the fighting scene.
Not the scene when Iko takes his clothes off.
Especially that part.
Actually,
part not for girls, but
untung Iko nggak ada di sini.
Soalnya ketawa lagi loh.
Talking Pictures is already dismissed. Come back same time next week.
UFM 94,7